Hey guys, it's hard to sleep. This firing of Filipe Luis caught everyone by surprise, but I think it was a quick move by the board to try to react to what's happening. But it's important for us to mention here that there really are some coincidences with 2023. Dorival was also caught by surprise, and his contract wasn't renewed. He didn't stay with Flamengo. And they brought in a Portuguese coach, Vitor Pereira, who had also promised he wouldn't take another club and so on. The mother-in-law issue and Jardim. Now that's the name that's coming, that's been chosen, and Flamengo was already meeting with him even before firing Filipe Luis. We got information that before the game they were already in contact with coaches to try to find a replacement. Jardim, also in Brazil, would just finish up at Cruzeiro and everything else, and apparently he might be closing a deal with Flamengo. The thing is, it's a lot like what happened in 2023. We hope that Flamengo can turn things around, get back on track, and start winning again. And for those who didn't understand what happened, damn, Flamengo fired Filipe Luis after an 8-0. Man, everything was already decided. After the loss to Lanús, they were just moving ahead to close the deal with the coach and be able to announce the new coach. Okay, so the deal was already in progress and we had Filipe Luis, as sensitive as only he can be. And I even want to tell you that I really hope Filipe comes back to Flamengo one day, more experienced and ready to win more titles. I want you to understand that he leaves through the front door, and I want you to always keep Filipe Luis in your hearts because he's a true Flamengo supporter. Yeah, he can make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but it was impressive. In the last minute of the press conference, he predicted that he was leaving without knowing because he really didn't know. It was a total surprise, and he only found out after the press conference. As far as I know, he's still in disbelief about what happened. He felt that he was leaving. Just look at what he said.
But I make mistakes. I have no problem admitting it. In fact, I say very clearly that I'm the one responsible. I have no problem owning up to it. As I've said before, maybe the fans prefer this type of player, the one who slides in for tackles and all that, who connects more. I'm a different type of player, but I connect with the fans in another way, in a different way with them. So I've always felt this connection with the fans, always felt it, no matter what happens from now on. If I'm not here tomorrow, my love and affection for Flamengo will always exist, and I believe the fans feel the same way. For me, even now, the pressure in the moment has to exist. It always has. As a player, I was also under a lot of pressure and criticized, and rightly so, and that made me better. I have no doubt about it. I lived the best years of my life here. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Well,
That's it. All the best. Good luck on your journey. Amen. You will always be very loved here. Big guy, big guy, big guy, Filipe Luis. Now I'm going to leave you here with excerpts from Filipe Luis's last press conference and the mixed zone, also from Flamengo's players after the 8-0 victory. Filipe Luis's last match as Flamengo's coach in this window, in this period now, from 2019 to 2000, and 26 7 years of Filipe Luis, which are now coming to an end.
Good evening. Regardless of the result, we saw Flamengo today with a lot of determination and a lot of willpower on the field. And do you see that regardless of the result, today is the turning point for Flamengo to finally move forward this season?
Man, it has to be. The turning point is winning, playing well, and being dedicated, and we've been trying to do that. Sometimes things don't happen the way we'd like. But yes, it's very important to win. It's very important to move forward and reach a final, to have another chance to compete and try to give this boost to the season. It's just the beginning. Of course, it didn't start the way we wanted, and now we have to chase after it, work, improve, and keep winning.
Today you scored 2 goals, but when it came to celebrating, it was pretty restrained, kind of shy. I wanted to know the reason why you did the little dance at this moment for Flamengo. How is it? What's your view on that?
This is the moment.
Having this opportunity to play in the position you mentioned there in the midfield and having another chance as a starter.
Yeah.
Man, I think that, like you said, there's a time for everything. I think it's time to work, time to improve, to do my best, to try to get better. I'm really happy about the goals and celebrated with the fans and my teammates. But it's about keeping on working, improving, getting better, because we need to get that confidence back to have a winning year.
Paquetá, even with an 8-0, the team still left with fans shouting shameless team, right? How is it? How do you guys deal with these criticisms from the fans? And do you feel that at this moment winning the Carioca Championship has almost become an obligation, right? To make peace with the fans?
Man, like I said, the fans have the right to demand, to say what they think. We have to listen, we have to work, we have to improve, we know that. Like I said, there's not much to say. It's about listening, working, and doing our best. Of course, playing for Flamengo, no matter the competition, you have to reach a final and try to win for Flamengo. That's it. That's the pressure, and we have to chase after the results, the wins that slipped away, to win a championship and have a productive year.
You, as one of the most experienced players, I wanted to first talk about this protest from the fans, right? I wanted to know from you if you've ever experienced this at any other club you've been at, and also for you to talk about it. How did the players react to this protest from Flamengo's fans?
Hello, good evening. I think I've experienced this situation at almost every club I've been to. And as I've said in some other interviews, whenever there's a protest, it's always for some kind of improvement. And we are aware of the improvement that the fans are demanding from the team. And the team really is a professional group that always works to improve, and I'm sure that we are getting better. I think today was a great starting point for the team and for closing the gap that currently exists, perhaps between the fans and the team. I think that at some point this will end and everyone will go back to supporting the team like they always have. Because after all, it's the fans who create the atmosphere. There's no way for us to control the celebration, at least not from the outside. What we can control is what we put on the field. It's the energy we bring to each match. That we can control. But I'm sure that, as always, Flamengo's fans always want the best for the team.
Alex, today Flamengo faced a team considered to have a lower technical level, which in this case is Madureira, who are currently playing in the Series D of the Brazilian Championship. And I wanted to know, after the first leg, which had already been a big result, did you and the group expect such a wide scoreline like today's match?
First of all, when we start the game, regardless of the team, we focus on our own work. We don't think about the other team's inferiority. I think today we executed our game plan, we put into practice what we've been working on, and the result came because of that. The result didn't come from the other team's inferiority, but from our great performance and our excellent work.
Filipe Luiz has talked a lot in press conferences about the team's physical exhaustion, including in the match against Lanús. That was very clear at the end of the match. The players were visibly very tired. I wanted to know from you, from the players, how is it? Are you noticing this physical disparity that the team has been showing this season?
Hello, good evening. Talking about the Lanús game, it was a match that went into extra time, so it's normal for all the players to finish the game really worn out. When it goes into overtime, players go beyond their limits, but this physical issue always depends on each player. Some players recover faster than others, some players reach their physical peak before others. However, we're on the right track, improving more and more each time, not just physically but technically as well, which is something we were making a lot of mistakes in, even more technical mistakes than physical ones. So it's something that even during training and now in games we've been able to adjust well. And as always at the beginning of every championship, it's normal to have some ups and downs physically, but I'm sure that from now on everything will get better.
And the left side? And it was really tough, right? And tough with goals. It generated a lot of team play, but this position usually plays on the left.
Do you think it's possible for him to have a run in this position?
Both of them operating eventually.
What do you think about his future in this?
Ultimately, I think today was the day I felt most comfortable on the field. The movements were very natural, all the movements toward the goal. A vertical player, a player who,
as I've always said here, is decisive in the box, creates a lot of danger, whether it's in finding space, carrying the ball, finishing, or heading. So today I felt he was in the place where he can be most comfortable. For example, it's the same situation and position Carrascal played in, but because he uses his natural foot, it makes his game much easier with the physical strength of the other players, so I believe it could be the ideal position for him now.
I will try.
And today the coach came here and tested before and after the game. During the game, he supported. And so since I've been young for a longer time, now I know I'm from the 20th century. Multiple winners on the field. As coaches, I'll know the three, don't go on too long. Target at centimeters Kisai and me, his role as a coach. And today the fans criticized you a lot, cursed at you. I wanted to know how that's affecting you. For you, who is a guy that arrived here at the club in 2019, you are a unanimous favorite. You always have been. And today the fans, at least for the first time, I saw them cursing at you, complaining about you. I wanted to know how you're taking this. And if at any point you might also think about taking 2 steps back to move 3 steps forward. I completely understand. I always like to remember that I used to wear the Flamengo jersey when I was a kid. I've been a fan since I was a kid, and I grew up watching, suffering with Flamengo's eliminations, and being a supporter just like them. So, when I put myself in the position of a player, first, choosing to come to Flamengo, my favorite club, it's a life choice, first of all, but I already knew about the pressure that comes with it. I was watching Diego Ribas, one of my best friends in football. I was seeing all that pressure. I used to see that from afar, but I wanted to take on this challenge of working at Flamengo, of experiencing these fans, the good and the bad. And when, as a coach, from the moment I chose to start here, the club opened its doors and gave me the opportunity, I knew perfectly well the pressure that comes with it because I saw the change of 9 coaches before I came in. So I know the pressure, I know how hard it is, but I always believed in myself. And best of all, I know that the fans also believe in me. They gave me a lot of confidence. I think they were the ones who convinced, maybe the fans convinced the board to put me in this position. I have a very strong connection. I said before coming to Flamengo that I don't have that profile of sliding tackles, of fighting, of shouting that the fans don't. Sometimes I like it a lot, but I have another profile that connects me a lot with them, and they know that, which is respect, affection, and dedication. But respect mainly for the badge and everything I've done here. I gave my life to Flamengo. I left my soul here. When the fans demand results, they're right.
The results aren't coming. They're not feeling represented by the team that's playing. And I've said it before, I'm responsible for that, and I know it. And what I did a lot was work even harder, because the only thing I can do is work, improve, dedicate myself, and try to give back and evolve as a coach so I can return the affection that the fans have shown. For me, all these years have been the happiest years of my life. It's what I experienced here at Flamengo, in victory and in defeat. So I always want to give back as much as possible for the affection they've always shown me. So I could tell you that it hurts, but it doesn't. I completely understand the fans, and what I can do is do even better so I can bring them back to our side again. But, sorry, just to finish, I don't want to drag this out too much, but what made me proud was that, okay, they protested, but during the game, they supported the players for the full 90 minutes, and that was clear. The effect of that on the players with the ball, how they regained their confidence because the fans were on our side during those 90 minutes, and when the game ended, the protest is totally valid. And I am, as I always said, I've always been a fan.
Flamengo faced an opponent of a much lower level, but I think they did what needed to be done, a big win, playing well. Externally, we saw, under this pressure, that the protest chants continued. But internally, do you believe that this result, with such a great performance, how important is it for the team to get back on track? And especially now before a Carioca final? On top of that, one of the main protagonists was Pedro. Once again, he scored 4 goals. It's the 3rd time he's scored a 4-goal haul in a game. Tolima, Maringa, and today, Madureira. Do you think he was also lacking that confidence and that Paquetá's position might have helped Pedro in the game?
Today as well? Let's go. 2 questions. The first one is about confidence. Well, the game really, as you said, lost its context after the sending off, with all due respect, but our opponent was technically inferior. But we always notice that because there are many things we need to fix. But there were also good things, connections on the field, and the team recovered behaviors that had been getting lost as the game went on. Like I said, confidence is always part of that. And about Pedro, it's important to say that he's a decisive, crucial player, and above all that he's been playing. Because it often seems like the coach is against Pedro, or against Arrasca, or against something, just because the player isn't playing, but that's not the case. Pedro played in the final when Corinthians made it to that final. He played the entire second half and extra time. But Pedro also has the right to not be at his best, just like everyone else. So as I watch the players, I always try to get the best out of them, and I, more than anyone, want the best Pedro in the world. Pedro is the type of player who makes an impact whenever he gets the ball, which is why he played all 90 minutes in the first game against Madureira. Because I want him to score goals, I want him to regain his confidence. Because I need him, when the ball gets to his feet, to make a difference, just like he did today. And strikers, they live for goals, so at the beginning of the game, he was really looking for that goal. From the moment the first one went in, he loosened up and everything became easier. That's what strikers live for. So I have no doubt that he also lives for those feelings and is looking to get back to his best level so he can help the team.
Good evening, Filipe. Lucas Bear from Lance. After the match, the players who don't get to play do some activities on the field with the fitness staff, right? You probably missed that moment since you were in the locker room. Gonzalo Plata faced harsh criticism and Maracanã was already emptying due to the late hour. So the shouts and even some insults became even more noticeable. Anyway, other players who came in and played today, like Royal, did very well. And Pedro, too, who hadn't been playing well, had a great performance. And I wanted to ask you, regarding this issue with Plata, for example, how do you deal with an athlete in this situation, especially with a big final against Fluminense coming up? To deal with this mental aspect of the players, these criticisms and demands from the fans, I wanted to use this example of Plata to give some context to it. How do you handle this mentality when working with players? Thank you.
Well, each player has their own way of dealing with and overcoming difficult moments. Plata is a player who puts in a lot of effort, who gives everything he has during the 90 minutes, sacrifices himself for the team, and has always done so. He is a very important player for us and is going through this moment of being criticized. What we have to do as a group is show the importance he has within the group, me as the coach and his teammates, to show it. They do this on a daily basis because he is a very important player, very important. He has many qualities that help us, that make us stronger as a team. And I have no doubt that he, together with the best version of the team, will help us a lot during this season. So I hope he gets through this tough moment as soon as possible because we need him.
Hi, Filipe. Good evening. Igor Siqueira from UOL. I have some questions that involve both on and off the field matters. This past week, these previous days, I would say there were a lot of protests, even in the players' own environment. In terms of the condo, the house, and so on, how was the impact of that within the group? So, how did you all perceive this situation, this level of pressure from an organized fan group going to the training center and all that? And also, just to take advantage of the soccer part, Flamengo has already had a 7-1 rout before, and then the performance dropped again. Is there any kind of visual metric or GPS, something in the performance area that you can already have at this moment? The confidence that it won't drop again in the final, that the team has actually at some point already regained its best performance. At this moment, after winning 8-0, considering the quality of Madureira,
every game is different in soccer. There are moments of confidence, of moods. And games like this are important so that the player, as I said, can regain that confidence with the ball, so he can also recover his connection with the fans and everything else. But each game has a different context. I believe in the theory that great players rise to the occasion in big games. So we have a final ahead of us, and I always expect the best version of my players. I believe they are ready, they are prepared to show their best version. And it's up to me now to come up with the best game plan so they can perform at their best, and so we can win a derby that's so tough. The fans have, as I said, every right to protest, to go to the training center, to show the dissatisfaction they have with the players. So our role is to try to get as close as possible to the fans so that the fans feel represented, but also feel like they get a response, whether it's on the field, through a statement, or anything else. So I hope that as soon as possible the fans will feel represented by our team again.
Filipe, this is Luiz from GE. Continuing a bit along those lines, I wanted to know how you all work on a daily basis. If you can even work when the environment is under this level of pressure, how is it? Do you do it by talking to the players anyway? How does that work? Also, how do you manage to overcome it and give the response that the fans want so much? And if you allow me a second question, the transfer window closes tomorrow. I wanted to know if, in your assessment, it was positive, if the board filled those positions that you saw as necessary to strengthen the team, both with arrivals and departures. What is your assessment of the transfer window? Thank you.
Yes, for me, we have an ultra super competitive squad. I've always said that. Of course, we have to show it soon, but for me, it's the best squad in South America. It still is. We kept practically all the important players, and with the arrival of Vitão, André, and Paquetá, was there anyone else? No, I forgot. André, Paquetá, and Vitão, that's it, the three of them. That made our squad even stronger. And I believe that if it stays like this, if this is how we finish, we're really well set. And about being a good leader, when you lose a game, the atmosphere tends to get a bit sadder, a little quieter, calmer. And I always try to separate things from the work environment so that the players always have a lot of harmony to be able to work. Of course, there will always be those who are dissatisfied, those who play less, get fewer minutes, or feel that they are not as important. That always exists, but my role is to try to make the environment as light as possible so we can work. It's never easy after losing 2 finals, it's never easy. The player feels it, feels the pressure, first feels the defeat, then feels the external pressure, the internal pressure too, from family, everything. So of course no one is happy when they lose. They're not going to be in the mood for jokes, but I want them to feel as relaxed as possible so they can work and perform in training and regain their confidence.
Filipe, good evening. Filipe, since you took over as Flamengo's coach, have you always advocated for 4 or more days to prepare for a game? You'll have 5 days this week, and on Sunday you'll face a final against the opponent that gives you the most trouble. Since you sat in that chair, I'd like you to talk a little about that. How important are these 5 days of work you have ahead, and how important are they even for your staying on? The victory over Fluminense and the Carioca Championship title.
Thank you. Indeed, they've been a very tough opponent in recent years. The matches have always been complicated for Flamengo, and we're also a tough team for them. It's a derby that's very evenly matched because of the rivalry and what it represents in Rio de Janeiro. But as you mentioned, it's going to be the first time we'll have 5 days to train. So with the whole group, I think that's essential so we can do several types of training that we haven't had time to do. And to go into this game as best as possible so that we can be in our best physical and mental shape after today's victory, so we can play a great game and hopefully win this final, which is very important for all of us. I'm cold here. What's this? It's cold in here. Sorry, geez, damn. No, damn.
Filipe, all good. Good evening, Gabriel Orfan, Paparazzo Rubro Negro. Filipe, this was Flamengo's 3rd game this year without conceding a goal, correct? It was the 1-0 win over Vasco, then the first leg against Madureira, and now the second leg. In all 3 matches, Vitão was one of the starting defenders. I wanted to know if you plan to use Vito more in important matches. We know he didn't end up playing against Lanús, neither in the first leg nor the second. I wanted to know, knowing that and considering his good performances, do you intend to use him in more matches? If you allow me, it's now 6 minutes past midnight. It's already the birthday of the idol Zico. If you could send him a message...
Thank you. Wow, I'll call him. He deserves the call. He's the greatest idol and our eternal king. About Vitão, Vitão is a player who has a lot of potential, a lot of talent. But the main thing is he likes to learn, he likes to train, he likes to ask questions, he's dedicated, humble, and his potential for growth is very high. You can already see him doing all the concepts we ask for, both defensive and offensive. The center back in our team has a lot of responsibilities. I ask a lot from him, and since he has also worked with other great coaches, he already brings that with him. Exactly, because he's a player, how can I put it, valuable. In that sense, he already comes with these concepts built in. So the coach has to work less, but he's a player who, of course, without any doubt, deserves a spot. So every game he plays, every practice he has at this level, it always gets harder for the coach to decide. So that's the kind of headache I like, the good one, and he's improving with every game he plays.
Filipe Roque, EFLA column. I know you've already said that signings are Jose Boto's responsibility, but I wanted to ask you a question about on-field matters. Flamengo is about to end the transfer window without signing a center forward. I wanted to ask you if you actually requested this center forward at any point. Because when you don't have Pedro, you've been trying out some options like Plata, Carrascal, Paquetá, and the team's offensive performance has dropped in terms of finishing and goals, and with Pedro you've had good conversion. Did you request this center forward? How much could not getting this possible backup impact your game plan until the mid-year transfer window?
Well, first we have a center forward. Of course, we've been looking since last year. We're out there in the market, evaluating situations, even to create this internal competition, which really raises the level of the players so they can grow even more. So, of course, we're looking, it's not an easy task. I followed this process closely. It's not simple, but I believe that with Pedro getting back to his level, which we all saw, where he set his own standard, last year, for example, until he broke his arm in that final stretch of the season, in the Palmeiras and Botafogo games where he really made a difference. So once he gets back to that level, I have no doubt that he's the one. And others can play there, like Bruno Henrique, as you mentioned, Plata and the others. Paquetá has also played that role. The others, I think, have more difficulty. Wallace can play there too, so we're well covered in that position. But like Flamengo, like the club, and speaking a bit about Boto's part, but we're always looking for the best players, always. Not just because this is the squad, in my view, the best squad, but it can't stop there. We always have to be evolving, and the players who don't fit in or aren't at a good level or don't fit in or want to leave have to go. And new players always have to come in so we can renew the team. The strength, as well as the age profile and quality of the squad.
Filipe, this is Jonas Stelman from Goal TV. Congrats on the win. There's been much discussion about the team's mentality in the last match with Lanús, which you made clear. You said, I need to restore my squad's mentality. And today, once again, you mentioned the team's mentality, given all the protests that are happening during this tough time. How is your mentality, Filipe? Is your mindset strong? Are you still motivated to get the team out of this situation? How is it? There's a lot of talk about the team's mentality, but the fans want to know how Filipe Luis's mentality is to help Flamengo get back to playing good football.
Like I said, I always push myself to the limit, and this is the moment that has challenged me the most in my life. And I'm always a really positive guy, a hard worker, and my mentality, like I always say, is driven by challenges. And I love this profession so much that I even enjoy the moments that aren't so good.
Filipe, good evening. Rodrigo Ramos, RN. I wanted to share some information with you. Out of 50 matches against the G12 teams, among which Corinthians is the most prominent, your success rate is 65.3%. You only have 8 losses, but out of those 8, 3 are against Fluminense, which is the club you have more losses than wins against. What can't be missing for you, for Flamengo to come out as champions on Sunday against Fluminense?
What can't be missing? What do we have to do? It's a perfect game, and we know Fluminense doesn't let their opponents make mistakes. As for the last defeat, it's true that all these defeats we've had have different contexts. Last year we had 7 players on the Brazilian national team, on national teams during the FIFA break. This year the team was coming back from pre-season with only 3 days of training, and also a completely mixed team, playing with some players who were about to leave. And the first loss was also before the semifinals of the Copa do Brasil in 2024, also with an alternative team. So all of them have context. Now it means that anything can happen on Sunday. What I hope for is to arrive at full strength, our best physical condition, our best mentality, our best version, because it's an opponent that demands our best if we want to win. Because without a doubt, what this derby represents for Rio de Janeiro, you can only win if you're at your best.
Felipe over here, good evening. Julio Miguel Neto, S1 Live Disflar and Rubro News TV. Felipe, my question today is directed to you. You've been at Flamengo for over a year and a half, and we can't ignore that. I think the most turbulent moment in your time here so far was the last press conference, after the defeat to Lanús, and consequently the loss of the title. You answered that the evaluation of your work is up to the press, it's the fans who have to evaluate. You understand you're a smart guy that you are, and you have the privilege of being a fan, a highly decorated former player and coach. Sometimes you lack a bit of self-criticism after the game against Lanús, a team that fought against you until the end. Substitutions like putting Cebolinha on the right, you practiced that during the week. You put Cebola in Lino's spot at halftime, then moved him to the right. Maybe you misread the game a bit. Did you practice that? Do you admit a mistake because the fans are worried about it? The 2 finals that Flamengo lost this year, both to Corinthians and also to Lanús, the fans are upset about that. That's obvious. What would the fan Filipe Luiz ask the coach Filipe Luiz after this game? And especially you who have shaped yourself as the coach you are today, successful and intelligent. You always said that you tried to take the best from each coach you worked with. What would the player Filipe Luiz ask the coach Filipe Luiz after the game against Lanús? What did you try there so that you wouldn't make maybe a mistake on Sunday? This self-criticism is important sometimes, which the fans demand from you. You also demand it from yourself. You have this self-criticism. Because when you say that the evaluation depends on us or the fans, isn't there a bit of a lack of you holding yourself accountable as well?
Your questions are always very difficult, but I like this question. I liked it. This is a very good question. I'm the guy who's most self-critical, the one who sleeps the least, the one who puts the most pressure on himself. And maybe the post-game message didn't connect. I forgot part of your question now because I had this in my head to tell you. But let's go after the Lanús game. First, I'll explain about Cebola. Cebola was playing on the left, and there were 25 minutes or 20 minutes left. I think 15 minutes to finish the game. We were drawing the game. So I put in another striker, switched to a 3-5-2 formation, and put Cebola as the right wing back to try to score a goal, and we did. We won the penalty. So I kept Bruno and Pedro up front with Arrasca and Paquetá and Cebola on the right, and Ayrton on the left. Then Jorginho and Pulgar and 2 center backs. So we played a 3-5-2. So we had 6 attacking players. It was the option I had, given the situation and everything else. So I didn't put Cebola's right back just because I thought it looked good. I wanted to put him one more forward because we were only managing to attack with crosses. But I didn't get this question after the press conference, so, many times it just hangs in the air. But I'm glad I can explain my post-game analysis and what I said here. Really, as a coach, maybe we as coaches, we evaluate the game. And when I say it's a good game, within the phases I imagined for the game, where I wanted to take the game, the phases the game has, it happened. So the game I imagined, how we would get out of the pressure, how we would push the opponent into the box, where the spaces were, all of that happened. So I evaluated the game based on that, based on those phases, how we defended. Like, for example, the opponent practically didn't create anything. They scored the goal because of our mistake. How we got into their box and everything else, then inside their box, it's up to the players to make the difference, which we didn't do, even though we had our best players out there. The ones I thought were the best at that moment played the first half. Then the substitutes came in, like I said before, with the best squad in South America, and the players just weren't having their best day. Either the ball or, I don't know, something else, and then we couldn't solve it. In that best situation, we conceded a goal with 2 minutes left, and then the final counterattack to finish us off. And then, honestly, the adjective used wasn't the right one. A great game, because when you win, when you lose, it can't have been a great game. But according to my analysis as a coach about what I expected from the game and what I wanted to do, for me, yes. It was within what was possible. That was good, but the execution of things, no, it wasn't good, I know that. The players aren't at their best right now in form, confidence, or otherwise. It's a process and all connected. So I analyzed not only my tactics, but also my press conferences. And it's not easy, I've already told you, it's not easy for me after a year. And to love the club, I love the club, I love the fans, I love everything, and I know that's true. And I lost 2 finals. For me, it's very hard to come here and speak without emotion. And I'm working on that to try to improve and connect with the fans. Because I want to send that message. As today it's easier because I won, but the other day, for me, it wasn't so easy. I hate losing, I hate losing. I have a really hard time dealing with defeat. I've said this before, it's always been this way. I can't sleep and keep dwelling on losses. I need to work on that. But I thank you for the question. I hope that more or less answers it. Any questions? No? Yes, no, but I make mistakes. I have no problem admitting it, actually. I say very clearly that I am responsible. I have no problem admitting it, as I've said before. Maybe the coach, the fan, they prefer this type of player, the one who slides in for tackles and all that, who connects more. I'm a different type, but I connect with the fans in another way, in a different way with them. So I've always felt this connection with the fans. I've always felt it. No matter what happens from now on, if tomorrow I'm not here, my love, my affection for Flamengo will always exist, and I believe the same goes for the fans. For me, even now, the pressure at the moment has to exist. It always has. As a player, I was also under a lot of pressure and criticized, and rightly so, and that made me better. I have no doubt that I lived the best years of my life here. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night.